Here are our 8 players who will be battling it out in the candidates tournament starting on Sunday, the 29th of March. Of course, the winner will get the prize of a match against Domaraju Gukesh for the world title. So you might have noticed that Caruana's rating and Esipenko's rating have changed a little bit since the first video. They've both been playing in tournaments as little warm-up events. Caruana is playing in St. Louis and Esipenko has been playing at the Aeroflot Open in Moscow. He did quite well. I think he got 6.5. Anyway, in this video, I'd like to look at Andrey Evgenyevich Esipenko from Russia. He's 23 years old. He's about to turn 24 on the 22nd of March. He qualified for the candidates by coming third in the FIDE knockout World Cup knockout tournament in Goa in November 2025. There are so many World Championship World Cup events now, it's crazy. But anyway, so that was the knockout event in Goa. You can see that his peak ELO has been 27.23 in March 2022. So he's had a little bit of a plateau since then. Esipenko was a prodigy. Check out this photo from when he was 11 years old. It's taken in Moscow in 2013. I love this photo. Esipenko is kind of excited and nervous and proud to be standing next to his hero Magnus Carlsen. And, well, he made rapid progress after that. And a few years later, in Vaikanze in 2021, at the age of 18, he played Magnus in a classical game, of course, and defeated him in splendid attacking style. I recorded a video featuring that game, and it's on the channel. I'll put the link down below. It's a fantastic attacking game, actually, by Esipenko. And that year, when he was 18, Esipenko reached the 2700 landmark. So it's quite clear that, had incredible talent and he was going to go far. So I'd like to take a look at exactly how he qualified in this World Cup tournament. And we'll talk a little bit about his style as well. Esipenko reached the semi-final of the World Cup knockout tournament and faced the super solid Wei Yi from China. First 2 classical games were drawn. Then in the rapid tiebreak, first game was drawn. Again, Esipenko was up to the task, holding Wei Yi without any problem. Then in this second rapid play game, Esipenko outplayed Wei Yi. Long end game, but gradually got the upper hand, and you can see that here he is 2 pawns up. The final beckoned. So he just needed to win this game and he would qualify for the candidates. So the best move here is to switch the rook to give some checking distance against the king, and black should win that. But this was rapid play, and by this stage both players short of time. Esipenko played king b6, but knight e3 kind of threw him, because now the rook was attacked, but also the knight would like to go to d5 to give a check, and then the pawn can be taken. White has decent drawing chances here. Now, of course, the rook has to move, but instead Esipenko collapsed. He played c6. He defended against knight d5, but forgot about knight takes rook. An absolute tragedy. So that meant that Wei Yi went through to the final. Esipenko went into a third place playoff against the Uzbek Noribek Yakubayev. So let's have a look at what happened in that third place playoff. So the first game, well, Esipenko won a pawn with white, but you can see that in this endgame, black's pieces are very well placed. White is a little bit cramped. Potentially, these pawns don't look great. But with painstaking play, Esipenko ground out a win. He improved his position little by little. So b3, allowing knight d3 check. Takes courage to play like this, to put your king in the line of the rook, allowing a discovered attack, but actually there's nothing going. Knight f4 check, then the rook can step in the way. It's quite scary, but h5, okay, trying to fix these pawns. Bishop d2, okay, just very carefully edging forward, blocking the d file. Rook a5, attacking the pawn. Okay, bishop e3, so now that's protected. a6, takes on c4, now it's really turning in white's favour. Bishop d4, I love the way this bishop just creeps out square by square. Now, white to play and win. How do you do it? Can you see a good move for white in this position? I think we should have a think and drink moment, actually. So, white to play and win. How are you going to do it? Cheers. Do you want to improve your chess? Get access to live masterclasses with yours truly? Then subscribe to patreon.com/PowerPlayChess, and for just $25 a month, you get a newsletter with a test game, calculation puzzles, a monthly opening survey, access to an archive with over 100 opening surveys. And you can join in live masterclasses exclusive to patrons, where you can ask me questions directly over Zoom. All for only $25 per month. Do subscribe to patreon.com/PowerPlayChess and join the club. Normally, I drink Yorkshire tea, but this is Barry's Gold, and I'm telling you, very good cup of tea. There we go. Right. How does white win from this position? King c2. The knight is running very short of squares. So rook takes g3, only move, protects the knight. Now, here is the move you had to foresee. Bishop e3. Very nice. Wins material. So now breaks the connection. King takes knight threatened. And if knight e5, then bishop f4, with a simple double attack, white wins a piece. So very nicely calculated from Esipenko. Excellent technique. And we saw a different style in the second classical game. So Yakubayev in a must-win situation with white, and he decides to play slightly, well, I was going to say unorthodox. It has been seen before, but it's pretty sharp. And then f4. So it's an ambitious line for white and just a little bit different. And here Yakubayev took on d5. I think I've shown you this one before actually, but so I'll just flick through very quickly. I mean, this is reckless to give up the light squared bishop. And now Esipenko played b5. And this must have been overlooked or underestimated. The point is that if queen takes rook here and then knight c6, this is an absolute killer. So threatening the queen, and after this is taken, mate is threatened, and if e4, then bishop b8 traps the queen. So Yakubayev had to play back to block the diagonal, but these two bishops are fantastically powerful and the king is potentially exposed. This is a great move, c4, so this just softens the pawn on e4, undermines the pawn on e4, but also clears the c5 square for black's pieces. This is beautiful. The knight comes in and it lands on d3. What an octopus! Looking at these key squares in white's position, and this is just crushing. Esipenko is superb with the initiative. technically very, very good. We've seen that in the endgame. But when he has the initiative, he's incredibly dangerous. Now, the point is that as the knight covers the e1 square, then this bishop just can't be supported. And after this, you can see that white's position has just been hollowed out in the middle. It's a horrible position. And a great finish from Esipenko. So that clears the d-file. And after this, well, that can't be taken because there's going to be mate on g2, supported by that killer bishop on the long diagonal. So king g3 and then queen e2 anyway. It's game over. So yeah, in these final two matches, the semi-final and this third place playoff, I think Esipenko displayed great endgame technique, minus the tactical howler against Wei Yi, but also showed how dangerous he is when he takes the initiative. And looking back over some of his earlier games in the World Cup, I noticed that he's certainly not afraid to attack. So I just want to show you a couple of those games. So here's his round one game against Abbasov. So they reached this position from a Gioco Piano. So at the moment, Esipenko with white seems sort of fairly modestly placed. But watch out for these opposite colour bishops. That often gives you attacking chances. Now, if bishop a6, here's the trick. Of course, that can't be taken because of checkmate. Then queen d5 is actually okay for black. That blocks out the queen. But instead, Esipenko played d4. So obviously that can't be taken because of bishop e6, winning the queen. So now there's pressure on e5. So bishop d6 supports the pawn. And now bishop a6. This is an absolute killer. So again, can't be taken because of the mate. c6 blocks the queen out for a moment. And then b5. He's powering through anyway. If the bishop is taken, then here, followed by rook b7, it's too much. So c5 tries to keep the b file closed, but then b6 is just straightforward. Now finally the bishop was taken, but then takes, threatening to make a queen, so queen takes, and now Esipenko finished off like this. Check, rook d7. Is black defending? No. Pawn takes pawn, threatening c6. And if the king shuffles across, then simply rook d1, and I mean, this is too much. So queen c5, queen check, king here, and queen a8 was the final move. Of course, that's a deadly skewer. So Abbasov resigned. So very nice attacking game. But I also noticed something else about Esipenko and his play. With white, he often castles queenside. So watch this. So this was from the third round against the talented Iranian player Idani. So started out as bishop b5 check, and then a little bit unusual, he played the bishop back to e2 and went for an open Sicilian. I mean, it looks like to me as though white has just kind of lost the tempo, but I suppose the black bishop is committed to d7. But okay, anyway, regardless of that, let's have a look at this. And now f3. This is the computer suggestion in this position, to switch back to a Yugoslav attack once black commits to a dragon formation. And then, yeah, you can still castle kingside, but no, castles queenside. And this was just a really wild game that eventually swung in Esipenko's favour. Yeah, he won a nice attack. But okay, so that's one example. I'll give you another example. So this was from, this was from round 4 So his matchup against Vincent Keimer. So a Gioco Piano seems like a pretty calm start, but now watch what Esipenko does. So instead of playing knight c3 and castles, and yeah, this is very piano. Well, instead, Esipenko plays the Gioco Forte. Queen e2. Yeah, we know what's coming. He's looking to castle queenside, and that's exactly what he did. So this was actually a blitz game, in the tiebreak. But watch what happened. So he's looking to attack on the king side. He gets the chance eventually. Just bear with me. We're gonna get there in a second. And now knight e4 and g4. Here we go. So he's always had in mind that with the king on this side of the board, you can hurl your pawns up the board. And he started attacking. And this is dangerous. Watch what happened. Rook g4 and rook h4. Well, okay, this was a long game that finally went into an endgame, which Esipenko won. But I just think it's very interesting to see this tendency in his play. He loves castling queenside. Again, watch this. This is in the very next round. So this was against young Russian player Grebnev Petrov. So often this can lead to calm positions, but watch how Esipenko played it. Queen d2. Again, he wants to castle queenside. And there we go. And he ended up winning a very nice attacking game. On the king side. Well, I'll just play through the next few moves. There we go. He's launching on the king side. And the queen switches over. Opposite colour bishops. Watch out. Queen f5. And here we go. Boom. Took on h7 and managed to win this game. Okay, let me show you one more. So this was from his match against Sam Shankland in round 6. Now, these players traded blows. I mean, it was a great match actually, but Esipenko basically outplayed Sam in this match. I mean, it went through to the blitz games, so it was pretty tight. But watch what happened in this one. So Sam, in the World Cup, had made a speciality out of playing the Petrov and e5. And now, okay, it's absolutely standard that everyone plays bishop c4 here, and then castles and castles kingside and so on. So what did Esipenko do here? Did something quite different. And b3. This is very unusual. Very unusual. I suspect there's going to be a rash of imitators. c6, bishop b2, and yes, he's developing his queenside because he wants to go with the king over there. Very interesting. So the king is pretty well protected because the bishop is, he's got this nice fianchetto formation. And then he wants to turn his attention to the king side. Now, it would be very double-edged if Shankland castled kingside and then g4 and so on. Could be a crazy game. But Shankland decided, well, with little time to consider matters, he thought, right, I better play safe. I'm not going to commit to the king side. I'm going to go queenside. g4 anyway from Esipenko. Rook g1. Now you've definitely got to go queenside. There we go. So Shankland got his king out of danger on the king side. But, how secure is the king when these pawns have advanced up the board? Compare it with white's. And at the moment, this side of the board is packed. There's no danger. But watch what happens. Okay, king b1, nice and tidy. Now, g5. Pushes the knight out of the way and knight e2. So that covers the the f4 square, so the knight isn't bouncing in there. And sort of opens up this diagonal a little bit, so there's a little bit of pressure here. Now I think the most sensible would be to just bring the rook into the middle, take it away from this diagonal. But c5, Sam wanted to bring this bishop into the game. D takes e5 and knight c3. Aha, that knight wants to hop into d5. That's the problem. Bishop e2, very nice move. So Esipenko takes control over that d5 square, but also the bishop looks at the knight here. Bishop f8. And now a really nice liquidation. This is great stuff. So an exchange on e5, exchange on d8, an exchange on h5. Okay, what's he doing with this? I mean, it looks like is he exchanging for no reason at all? No. Knight d5. This is very well judged. Remember, this was a blitz game. This is the tie break. Great move. Temporary pawn sacrifice. So you can't live with this knight on d5. So that Sam took this and then took the pawn. So for the moment, black is a pawn up. But what's happened? Well, this diagonal is opened. Without the light square bishop, black's king certainly looks more exposed. So the king is a little bit drafty there. And after this move, queen f3, white's pieces are beautifully coordinated. Hits the rook, hits the pawn on h5, also looks at f7. It also covers d1, and that's very important, as we're going to see any moment. So, rook's attacked, came back. Now, you could take the pawn on h5, but g6, Esipenko senses this is the moment to strike. So, this pawn advance brings that rook into the game, sweeping across to look at black's exposed queen side. Great move. And notice that queen covers d1. That was a very clever point behind queen f3, or one of the points behind queen f3. So there's no check on d1 to push back the bishop. So rook a6 is a threat. King a7. Now queen h5. So still even material, but that pawn on e5 is attacked. Okay, can it be defended? Well, it's not so simple. Thing is, if black defends this one, then white is going to take aim at the other side of the board. If, for example, bishop d6, actually white can take his time here. So a3, let's give the king a nice little bolt hole. Okay, queen h6, yeah, more pressure along the 6th rank. Rook g7, nice. Attacking on the 7th rank now. Notice, if these pawns were back here, it's a different story. But with these pawns advanced, then Esipenko understood that going for this knight d5, opening up the king, is the way to go. By the way, this is not the game. I just want to show you this line because I think it's just illustrates black's problems very well. And then with black tied to the defense of the bishop, simply bishop takes pawn, you can see that white is just completely dominant here. And sooner or later, white is going to win with this move. And yeah, the king is safe. The check is just not an issue here. In fact, you could go to either square. So Shankland actually played c4, looking to somehow stir up trouble. But bishop takes pawn. Now white is a pawn up. A check. The queen came back. And even in the endgame, black suffers because the 7th rank is just exposed. Rook came back. Now, I suppose last trick, if bishop f6, black takes with check. But there's no need to do that, of course. Pawn takes pawn. That was the final move of the game. Shankland resigned. If pawn takes pawn, if black recaptures rather, then just king c3. This one is dropping. The f pawn advances. It's a disaster for black. Black is just not breaking free here in this position. So we've seen that Esipenko has very good technique, endgame technique. That's one thing. He showed that as he held off Wei Yi and even outplayed Wei Yi in an endgame. He also is a great attacking player. He's great with the initiative. I think this final game against Sam Shankland shows. And he loves the castle queenside. Funny enough, just before I recorded this, I was checking on Esipenko's result in the Aeroflot Open, and he played a superb final round game where he also castled queenside very quickly against a French defence. Yeah, do check that out. So yeah, good technique, good with the initiative, and well, he's not the favourite to win the candidates. However, I think he'll play a significant role in this tournament. You know, I'm sure the Russian Chess Federation have thrown great resources behind their candidate, and it's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on. He has youth on his side, so let's see. He's a dark horse, but watch out for Andrey Esipenko.